Hello, everyone. This is Sarah Johnson with Appulate. Thank you so much for joining me today for our ProducerConnect training. We will be going over features for both ProducerConnect Premium and ProducerConnect Standard, but overall, you will get a view of the Appulate system as a whole. So how this will go today is we will start with setup. So how to get properly set up in Appulate. Then we will go into workflow, and then we'll go to where to find any additional training. We have a lot of different training available for Appulate besides these webinars. We understand that folks have different learning styles, so we want to make sure we are able to complement all of those learning styles, so we're able to provide you with a bunch of different learning avenues. Just a webinar logistic before we get started. All attendees have been muted upon entry. However, with that said, I do not want to discourage any questions. Please feel free to use the questions box of your webinar screen, and I will answer all questions at the end of the webinar. It'll just notify me when there is a question, and I'll go ahead and address that when I open it up in a bit. So we will go ahead and jump right in now and get started. So we're going to go over how to get set up properly first. This is just appulate.com/sign-in. Go ahead and enter your Appulate credentials. If you are unsure of your Appulate credentials, go ahead and enter your email address here in this top field and click on Forgot Password. If the system lets you reset your password, then your username is always going to be that email address, and go ahead and just reset your password and then you're set up. If you do not have an Appulate account at all, therefore the system is not letting you reset the password, just go ahead and click that Sign Up Now button underneath the big blue Sign In button. For now, we'll just go ahead and hit Sign In. And this will take you to your Appulate dashboard. Now, as you start building clients up in Appulate and you have your insured starting to build in the system, that's when you'll start seeing a bunch of these like I have here. However, yours may not look like this right now. If it's blank, that's totally fine. If it has one or two, that's totally fine too. What we're going to talk about now is how to download Appulate Uplink. Now, Uplink is a simple print driver that's available for both ProducerConnect Premium and ProducerConnect Standard. So all agents on the call with us today will want to download this. Uplink is a simple print driver that's going to allow you to bridge over the information on your record form, any agency management system, to the Appulate system. So you are eliminating the need to rekey any unnecessary data. But before I show you that, and with that said, I also want to say that if you are an agent on the call with us today who does not use an agency management system and you do not use Accord, that's totally fine too. You can start using Appulate directly in the Appulate system from the dashboard. So when you log in, all you have to do is click Create your new customer or prospect. There's only one screen that's different in the workflow, and that first screen is just having you fill out the basic information for the insured. But those who do use the Accord forms, let's go ahead and show you where to find Uplink. You're going to locate Tools at the very top of your screen. It's the one, the second one in from the right-hand side, and the option that you're looking for is the third option down. It says Appulate Uplink. This will take you to our download screen. Then you're going to go ahead and click this big blue Download Uplink Print Driver button. It will take about a minute to install. And once installed, Uplink will show up in your list of printer drivers, but will also be a shortcut when you right-click on any PDF forms. So you'll go ahead and see both of those in action here in just a little bit, but that's how you would download Uplink. Go ahead and go to Tools again. Remember to click that third option down, Appulate Uplink, and click on that big blue Download Uplink Print Driver button. Now, the next piece of download is for ProducerConnect Premium agents only, and that is to download Appulate WebLink. So we're going to go to Tools again at the very top, and we'll choose Appulate WebLink, that fourth option down. Now, the WebLink toolbar is a browser plugin, and it is going to be browser specific. So I am currently in a Chrome environment, which is why my download button says Get Chrome Extension. But here are the system requirements if you have any questions. So if you are using Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge, you will just see the download button change itself accordingly. So it'll say Get Edge Extension or Internet Explorer Extension. But what you want to do here is just click on that big blue Get Extension button after you follow the download, which only takes a few seconds to do. You'll come back to this screen, the web link screen, and click on this white button that says Test Web Link. This will take you to a congratulations screen. You have installed WebLink correctly, and that's exactly what you want to get. Again, WebLink is a ProducerConnect Premium only tool. It's not available for ProducerConnect Standard. And you will see both WebLink and Uplink used live in action a little bit later when we get into workflow. Next, we are going to talk about markets. Markets are super important. I always recommend taking inventory of your selected market list first. Let's get right into that. Find markets up at the very top and choose that first option from the drop-down menu that says selected. This will take you to a list of markets that someone in your agency in the past may have already gone through and added markets to. This is a list of markets that you as an agent have a relationship with. So you may have appointments with these markets. I will also say that this could be a list of markets that are open brokerage. So open brokerage meaning that particular market is going to allow you as the agent to quote prior to having an appointment. So you may see open brokerage markets in this list as well. Now take inventory of the markets that you see here in selected. Note down any markets that you as an agent have a relationship with that may be missing. And then let's talk about how to add a market once you've identified missing markets. We'll go back to markets and then click on available. It's going to be the second option down. You're going to be taken to an alphabetized list of all of the markets available within Appulate. You can see the list is quite large. I do run out of a training account, so my account does reflect a few training options, but still it's a very, very, very long list. It is alphabetized. I do recommend searching markets by name using this little search field kind of up here near the left-hand side of the screen. Just type in the name of the market that you are looking for, and it will show up in this list. Now, if you're browsing the market, say maybe looking for any open brokerage markets, I do want to say I get a lot of folks that get held up on the state column right here. Please don't do that. The state column in this section is just reflecting that market's headquarters location. It does not reflect the market or the states rather that it quotes in. So definitely double check and take a look at that market specific list on that market's website that is linkable within the Appulate system. Don't get stuck on this states list. Again, it's just where that particular market is located. So now let's move a market over from available to selected so you can see how that works. We're going to use this top one as my example. I've located on the far right-hand screen the little plus sign in the select column that coincides with the market that I want to move over. We're going to go ahead and click that plus sign. That market will then remove itself from available, and that's just because it's been put into selected. So we'll head back to selected. And here is that market that I had added. So you can see how they just move themselves back and forth. Now, say you are in the selected market list and you identify markets that maybe you as an agent no longer interact with, and you need to remove that market from that list, that selected market list. Very similarly, there is an unselect column on the far right-hand side of the screen, but instead of plus signs, we have little minus signs. So if we hit the minus sign, we're going to confirm this time that we have to remove the market and click OK. All that's doing is moving that market back from selected to available. So you're never deleting markets. You're just strictly moving that back and forth. Two other things I want to talk about on this screen before I talk about credential info are this appointment section and add to RFQ. So honestly, pretend that appointments is not even here. This particular section will be changing and it does not hinder you being able to look at a particular market or not. If you're, say, appointed with Hartford and you click not appointed in Appulate, it's not going to connect that market to your Appulate account. That's going to be connected through credentials. So just ignore this particular appointment section. It doesn't hinder your ability to quote and Appulate with your markets as an agent in any way. I'll talk about credentials again in a second. Last one is RFQ. So this is a new feature. We actually had it in the past and have since brought it back due to popular demand. Add to RFQ means to add request for quote. It means if this particular market or any market in this list has a checkbox next to the name or here in this RFQ section, that particular market that you selected will show up every single time you quote the particular lines of business that market is applicable to. We have some agents who absolutely love this feature and some agents who don't use it at all. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's simply going to come down to your particular workflow as an agent. I use the example for RFQ very often for California agents. California agents quote a lot usually with State Fund of California. So when they work on work comp, a lot of agents want State Fund of California to show up every single time they quote work comp. So they would just click this little button or this little icon that you see here. It would add a checkbox. Then every single time they went to quote work comp, State Fund of California would automatically populate. Again, this feature is optional, but it is here for you to use if you need it. Lastly, let's talk about credential information. Credential information is absolutely crucial for your success with an Appulate for those markets that require it. And there are two ways to do so. The first one is to click on each market name one by one and add your credential info. But honestly, there is a super easy shortcut that's much easier to do. And that is to click on your name at the top right-hand side of the screen over here. It's going to show your individual name. It's then going to take you to your individual user profile. You're then going to scroll down to the section indicated market logins. And you're going to see either a very long list of markets or a very short list. It's going to be unique to your particular agency profile. What you need to do here is enter credential information for all of those markets that are requiring it. Now, some of these markets may be e-submission style. Some of these markets may be web link submission style. Web link submission style markets are only available for ProducerConnect Premium agents. We will get more into the submission styles in just a little bit. But make sure that every single market has credential information filled out for it. This is so the Appulate system can bridge over the information to those carrier portals properly. So this is a very super crucial feature that I recommend doing before you even get started in Appulate. If you do not enter credential information for those markets that require it, and you go to quote with one of those markets, there is a super high probability that that particular submission is going to fail. And it's simply just because you didn't enter your credential information for it. Note that there are two different types of logins. It will default to use shared login. That just means credential information entered while the market type reflects shared will make itself available to everyone, every user underneath your agency's umbrella, any user underneath your particular agency's master account. If you switch this to use My Login with the drop-down menu and enter credential information here, that credential info for Use My Login will only reflect for you and not everyone else in your office. Each office, of course, operates differently, so make sure that you are selecting the option that is best for you. All right, now let's get into workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and close Appulate here. Here is my Accord that I'm going to be working on today. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. This is simply an Accord 130. Now, what I want you to pull from this workflow demonstration today is absolutely not the line of business that I'm working on, but rather the workflow itself. That's because regardless of the line of business, the workflow in Appulate is absolutely identical. It's going to be the same. So if it said general liability, or if this said business auto, how I get the information into Appulate, how I answer the questions, and how I obtain my quotes is not going to change. So if it is easier for you to replace this line of business in your head with something else as we go along, please feel free to do that however you are most comfortable. Again, what I want you to take out of this is the workflow. Here's my Accord form that we're going to be using today. Again, it's just an Accord 130. There is nothing else attached to this Accord form. It is filled out with the basis information that I have for my insured. Now, this is just a native Accord that I have on my desktop. but you can also open up Accord forms that are completed in your agency management system. Again, no right or wrong way to do it, just multiple ways to accomplish the same thing. Now, there are 2 ways to use Uplink, which is what we're going to see now. Remember, we downloaded Uplink just a little bit ago, so now we're going to use the feature. Now, the first way to use Uplink is to locate print, your little printer icon, whether it's in your agency management system or whether it's in a native Accord like we are using here. What I would like you to do is change your print driver so it reflects Appulate Uplink. Now you can see if I expand this, this is going to be a list of the different printer drivers that I have installed on my PC. So a lot of the time, it's probably going to reflect what your default printer is. So make sure before you actually click print to select Appulate Uplink. From there, you would click print, and in the middle of the screen, Appulate would give you a pop-up asking you to validate your Appulate credentials. Now that is one way to use Uplink. The next way is going to be my favorite way, and it's just a cool shortcut. Here's that Accord form. I'm going to right-click on my Accord form and then just choose Appulate Uplink from the shortcut. The result is exactly the same. So again, I'm receiving a pop-up asking me to validate my Appulate credentials. Now we will go ahead and hit send. The system is going to open up Appulate, and it's going to ask us to confirm the line of business we're working on. And this is because the Accord form that I uplinked into the Appulate system could possibly be applicable to other lines of business. So notice this is a drop-down menu. If I open this up, it's now showing me the other lines of business that this particular Accord form could be applicable to. So if I'd rather work on a commercial package, then I would just do that instead by clicking that other line of business. I also use the example of if this was an Accord 125, this list would be much longer because the 125 is virtually applicable to every line of business in insurance. So just note that this drop-down menu will change depending on the Accord number that you uplink into the system. We're going to stick with work comp for now and then click continue. It's then going to take us to our SMART questionnaire for Appulate. So this is where you're going to answer any missing and required questions for submissions and add our market. You can see that all of our basic information from our Accord forms have been bridged over into the Appulate system, filling out our SMART questionnaire so far. Now, before I add markets and move forward with workflow, I want to touch on the forms section. Now, I will say ProducerConnect Premium agents have access to not only supplementals, but our entire Accord forms library as well. If you are a ProducerConnect standard agent, you only have access to supplementals, which I'll talk about here in a second. But if you do uplink an Accord form into the system, it will not be viewable in Accord forms or editable only by carriers that you are submitting to. For ProducerConnect standard agents, you will only see supplementals after markets are added. But here, since I'm operating out of a ProducerConnect Premium account so that I can show everyone the entire workflow in Appulate, you can see my Accord 130 populates here. Now, I didn't uplink any other Accord forms for this submission, but I know as an agent that some of the markets that I'm going to go to are already going to need an Accord 125. So let's let the Appulate system fill out that Accord for us. So to add additional Accord forms, there is a button just on the top of the form section here called Available Form. Go ahead and click on that verbiage. You are then given a list of additional Accord forms applicable to that line of business that you are working on. So let's add the Accord 125. Now, all of my duplicate information from my Accord 130 automatically bridges over to the Accord 125. I don't have to duplicate any of my data reentry at all. The Appulate system just automatically bridges that info over. Now let's talk about supplementals. I get the question a lot like, well, I've bridged over my Accord form. How do I access the supplementals library? Great question. Supplementals populate based off of the line of business that you're working on and the markets that you, of course, select. So to get supplementals to populate, you need to add your markets. Now, I will be adding 4 different markets today that represent the 4 different ways that you as an agent can submit to Appulate if you are ProducerConnect Premium. ProducerConnect standard will only be able to submit to the first 2 markets that I select. Now, I will be going over each of the markets. I will go back to them, but I'm going to add that fairly quickly just for a second so that you can see that supplementals will populate based off of me just adding that market. So I'm going to add my first market. I'm going to click the plus sign, choose from a market in my list, choose Westlake, GA. This is an Appulate style submission, so it's applicable to ProducerConnect Premium and ProducerConnect Standard. You can see that based off of just adding 1 market, I now have 2 supplementals that have automatically populated. I'll come back to this in just a second. I just want to add my remaining markets. I'm going to click my plus sign again and add my next market. That's Arrowhead. They're an e-submission market, so this is also a ProducerConnect Standard available market. My next market is Amtrust. They're a Webling style market, so only Appulate or only ProducerConnect Premium agencies will have access to the Webling market. No additional supplementals so far. Lastly, we are going to go ahead and add ACE. ACE does have a supplemental, so you can see it populate here. The email style submissions are also only applicable to the ProducerConnect Premium agencies. ProducerConnect Premium agencies have access to all of the submission styles, while ProducerConnect Standard only has access to the first 2 types of icons. Now, all of the information from my Accord 130 has been bridged over to all of the forms that you see here in this list. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Westlake GA supplemental and open it up as a PDF just because I want to show you what it looks like and what Appulate can do. Now, all of my information from my Accord form has been bridged over to my supplemental application, so I don't have to rekey any of that data. Now, we have a couple of icons on the far right-hand side of the screen that are applicable to our applications, both Accord and supplemental alike. You have the ability to email any of these forms out in PDF view if you needed to for some reason. There's also a send via fax icon with this little fax machine icon. There is an edit button, which is super commonly used. A lot of agents will use this. It's this plain piece of paper with a pencil. It's the middle button. Now, you have the ability to edit any of these forms in a Q&A view, so very similar to what our SMART questionnaire looks like here. Or it will also give you the option to edit that form probably on the view of the form that you as an agent are accustomed to. So it's exactly what it would look like if you were to open up a PDF and then just enter the information on that form. There is also a pen tool, so this is our send to sign function, that not only you as a producer can utilize, but you can also request signatures directly from your insured. So if you're requesting a signature from your insured, you send them over one of these forms to sign via the pen tool. They will go ahead and sign the form, and then that signed form is automatically loaded back into Appulate. So there's nothing you have to do in terms of downloading it from a separate website or downloading it from an email. It just automatically loads that signed form back into the Appulate system. Lastly, there is the ability to send any form to your insured for completion. This is very helpful for many, many, many agents. We call it our reverse portal feature. So you as the agent can send questionnaires over to your insured to complete. Once your insured completes that questionnaire, all of that information that they provided is automatically populated back into Appulate, again, eliminating the need to rekey any unnecessary data. If you do decide to use this feature, once your insured finished the form, you are notified via email that your insured finished a form. So you can hop back into Appulate, see all of the information that they provided for their submission, and continue working on it just as you would if you would have written down the information yourself and entered it. So now that we've talked about forms, let's go back to our SMART questionnaire, and we're going to go through our workflow now. We're going to take each submission on one at a time. And our first one is an Appulate style submission. And you know that something is an Appulate style submission because of the Appulate clover that is next to the market name, not necessarily the lightning bolt. I will touch on that in just a second. So an Appulate style submission means that a particular market's entire rate, quote, bind process is going to be happening with an Appulate. So you do not leave the system at all to rate, quote, or bind with any market that has an Appulate style clover next to it. Now let's talk about the lightning bolt. The lightning bolt means that that particular market's API is live with an Appulate. So as long as your submission checks out, the Appulate system will be able to provide you with an instant boundable quote directly from that market. Now, there will be instances where that lightning bolt is not available. Really, that's just meaning that that particular submission needs to be referred to underwriting and is going to be referred to underwriting when you submit. So that's really the only difference between it being there and it not. Now, this particular market, Westlake GA, for the purposes of the training, is an MGA because not only does Appulate have direct carriers in the system, we also have brokers and MGAs. So for this example, Westlake GA is an MGA. They also have a sub-market list available. So that means that if I click this little arrow kind of to the left-hand side of the Appulate clover, this will give me the sub-market list that that particular market can approach on my behalf, giving me the power to select and deselect those various markets as I choose. You can select all of them if you want. You can select one of them if you want. Whatever you need and you know you need to do for your particular risk. We are just going to focus on Encino today for the purposes of the training. Now, what we're going to do now is kind of move our view over to the middle of the screen. There's going to be these letter indicators that are going to help you work through the questions that are missing and required in the Appulate system. So this market has let Appulate know, hey, these are the missing and required questions needed for this particular risk. And the agent has to address each and every one before they can move forward. Well, the cool thing is, we've already uplinked our record form into the Appulate system. So a lot of them are most likely going to be answered, but there may be some that say are on a supplemental application or additional questions that maybe weren't answered on the Accord that we do need to go ahead and take care of. Now let's address this red D that we're getting for decline first. This red D is letting us know that this particular submission is declined because this FEIN has already been reserved by another agent. This is just because I do these trainings all day long throughout the day. So I just need to give the Appulate system an FEIN that it can validate. So I'm going to click on this hyperlink underneath my declination. It's going to take me directly to the section that I need to address in the questionnaire. So it eliminates the guesswork there. As soon as I give the system an FEIN that it accepts, I have a different letter indicator that has changed now. I also have a yellow informational that has popped up. I get a lot of agents who will get an indicator change, a questionnaire, and then click off of it and then freak out like, where'd my questionnaire go? Don't worry, those same exact questions are available in that letter indicator. So just hover over that letter indicator again, and you'll see all of those hyperlinks to those questions. Now, you may continue using the live and dynamic links way of answering questions in the Appulate system, but it is not your only workflow option. You do have a couple other options as well, and they may change for you based off of the submission that you're working on. But I want to arm you with as many tools as I can provide you with this training. So the next way to work through missing and required questions in Appulate is the use of the tabs, kind of down here towards the bottom of the screen. In the subject section, in this instance, there is one missing and required question that has to be addressed before you can move forward. So you would scroll through that section, sorry about that, locate the indicator, the question with the indicator. You can see it's the experience rating question. If I wanted to hover over my letter indicator, you can see that same question populates here. So again, no right or wrong way to answer the question. The difference is the live and dynamic links will take you directly to the question, but if you wanted to scroll through the tabs, that's okay as well. So again, find the question with the indicator and you would answer it. The very last way that I will show you, which can be really helpful, especially if you are in a rush, is the ability to hide all of the information that you've already provided, only leaving you with what's left to still be answered. So to do that, kind of near the far right-hand side of the screen in the questionnaire section, there is a box that says required unanswered only. If I check that box, it will just simply hide everything that I've already answered. And now we can go through and just answer the remaining missing and required questions as indicated by my market for this particular submission. So I am just simply clicking through the section and answering the information for my submissions. You can see how quick and easy it is to achieve. Now, I have answered all of my missing and required questions for this particular submission now. I know that because the system is telling me. So if I wanted to click on the required unanswered questions only box again, it would just simply unhide everything that we've already answered. So if you wanted to go through your submission, verify all of the information that you provided, please do so. Now, we have answered all of our missing and required questions, but we're still getting this orange A. And our goal is to get a green A or a green U, meaning your submissions are ready to go. You've completed all of the necessary requirements. But if I hover over my orange indicator, my A, it's telling me that I still need to upload loss runs to my submission. No problem. Let's go over to the loss runs tab on the far left-hand side of the screen. Now, because I had previous insurer information on my Accord form, Agora West, my previous insurer, automatically populates in this section. You may not have previous insurer information on your Accord form, and that's fine. This section would just be blank, and you would have to edit the insurance history manually. So all you would do to do that is click on Edit Insurance History and fill out this particular section. You can trash sections if you need to, or add additional insurance periods, whatever you needed to do. Now, I have loss runs I'm going to upload for the submission, but I'm going to do so in just a few minutes. I want to talk about our loss runner tool. Now, our loss runner tool is only available for ProducerConnect premium agencies only. So definitely keep that in mind. ProducerConnect standard agents, you will not have access to loss runner. So loss runner essentially allows you as the agent to request loss runs on behalf of your insured in a couple of different ways, depending upon their individual situation. So to launch Loss Runner, there is an icon on the far right-hand side of the screen that's a closed envelope with a blue arrow. You can see my cursor hovering over it here. It says Send Loss Runner. We'll go ahead and click on the Loss Runner tool. You will see that the request type 100% of the time is going to request a letter of authorization. That's simply because the letter of authorization is the most commonly used request type in the Appulate system, but it is not your only option. This is a drop-down menu. So if you click the drop-down menu, you may also utilize a broker of record letter, an agency loss run request letter, or an insured loss run request letter. You can change these on the fly at any time before you hit send. So if you are in the middle of taking a look at a letter and you figure out that that's not the one that you're looking for, just change the request type in the drop-down menu. We'll stick with letter of authorization for now, again, because it's the most commonly used request type in Appulate. Now, the insured's information at the top of Appulate here. Below that is the market that you are requesting loss runs from. So this pulls from me letting the system know that Agora West was my previous insurer. Now, something that I really want you to pay attention to is the ability to change the actual destination yourself. This is super important. So the destination pulls from an Appulate library, pulling out of the Appulate system. So it may not always be the destination that you need to request your loss runs from. We know that there are different markets out there that have different regions that they require their agents to request loss runs from. So, West Coast request might be different than East Coast request, might be different than Central request. This section is editable. Please edit if you know the default information is not correct for your individual agent region. To do that, you would simply click on the gray box. You'll see the default destination. Use this drop-down menu and hit Add New. You will then be able to add a different fax number or a different email address applicable to your region. Below that is the policy number and the policy period. And then finally, below that is the body of the letter itself. This is a letter of authorization. So my information as the agent can be found in the middle of the letter because this letter is being written from the point of view of your insured, requesting that that market send loss runs directly to me as the agent. Lastly is the section that needs the insured contact information. Sometimes the section is automatically filled out if you've already entered insured contact info. Sometimes the section is red, like it is now, meaning the system will not allow me to bypass this section without providing this information. So we'll click on that red box and enter the information that is required here. You can see the required sections have indicators. I will also note that if you have insured contact information on your record form, chances are the Appulate system has recognized that, and that particular individual just hasn't been set as the insured master contact. So double check this drop-down menu before you add a new contact. So you click the drop-down menu, you can see that any first, last names, and email addresses that were on the Accord form fill out in this drop-down section. So I'm going to choose Bill Blocker. He is going to be the contact for this particular insured, and hit save. Now that person's information will populate automatically in the section. From here, you would go ahead and hit send. And what happens after that, and keep in mind, Appulate timestamps every single one of the actions that we'll have now from sending this over to your insured all the way to that request being sent to the market. What's going to happen is once you click send, it sends your insured an email to this email address that you provided in the contact section with a link. All they have to do is click on the link. It will take them to this letter. They can do it on their phone, tablet, computer, whatever is most convenient for them. They go ahead and sign, and then as soon as they hit the complete button, this particular request is instantly sent over to the market and the destination that you indicated here. Now, please keep in mind that loss runs currently do not automatically come back via the Appulate system. They will either come to you directly as the agent or your insured directly, dependent upon the request type that you make. So that's why I always say double check your request type before you send the loss runs out. Now that's our loss runner tool. Again, that is only applicable to ProducerConnect standard agencies. Our ProducerConnect premium agency, so sorry, didn't mean to confuse anyone. Loss runner is applicable to ProducerConnect premium agencies only. Now, like I said, I already have loss runs for this insured, so let's go ahead and upload them. I'm going to click the clip on the far right-hand side of the screen that says Upload File. It's going to allow me to choose from a file on my desktop. I'm going to click on these loss runs, and now they are attached into the Appulate system. You can see that this information is timestamped, so you know exactly who uploaded those loss runs and when they uploaded those loss runs. And now we have gotten exactly what we were looking for, and that's that green A for accepted and a green submit button. Keep in mind, if this particular submission did not have a lightning bolt, this would be a green U. So now we are ready to click the submit button and get this instant bindable quote from our market. Here's our quote proposal. We can go ahead and click on that quote proposal, open it up. You can see here is our instant bindable quote available to us from our market. You can send this to your insured directly out of the Appulate system by clicking the three little dots on the far right-hand side of the screen that coincide with that proposal. It will give you the option to send via email. Now remember, this entire rate quote bind process for this particular market happens with an Appulate. So my request to bind button is currently orange, and if I hover over it, it's because there's a binding requirement for this market, and that is a signed Accord 130. So to send this over to my insured to sign, I would click the three little dots again. I would click to sign, and then I would choose my applicant from the drop-down menu or add new. Again, what's going to happen after you send this form, it's going to send your insured a link. They go ahead and click on the link, sign the form. Now the difference between loss runner and form signatures is form signatures automatically populated back with an Appulate. So there's nothing that you have to do in terms of uploading a signature. As soon as your insured provides a signature, you're just notified via email that your insured has provided that signature. And so you can hop back into Appulate and click on the request to bind button, which at that point will turn green. So again, any signed form automatically populate back into Appulate. There's nothing that you have to do to upload separately. So that's an Appulate style submission. Next, we're going to move on to e-submission. So e-submission, just like Appulate submission, is part of ProducerConnect standards. So standard agents have access to these two submission styles, as well as ProducerConnect Premium, but standard does not have access to the ones we'll do after. So the e-submission means that this particular market is still partners of Appulate. However, they have a carrier portal that requires credentials that they want to continue using, and it's absolutely fine. Appulate's going to bridge over the duplicate information from the Appulate system to the carrier portal, again, reducing the need, or eliminating the need rather, to rekey any duplicate data. So to initiate this, we'll go ahead and click Submit. The system will load. It's then going to allow us to click Complete Submission. It will open up that carrier portal. At this time, you can see the system has automatically logged you in. It's automatically created the insured profile if necessary, and taken you to the very last screen that it has filled out data on. Now, please keep in mind, this is a carrier portal that you as the agent are used to working in. What Appulate is going to do as you click through the screens is autofill any data that might be duplicate, but your quote obtainment process and your binding process is still going to be the same as it normally is. Now, with all that said, there may be some questions that are market specific, meaning they're not duplicate in Appulate. So you may need to go through and add any additional missing and required questions for your submission. Go ahead and answer those. But as you click through the screens, Appulate will autofill any data that it has that's duplicate. Once you have obtained your quote outside of Appulate, go ahead and bring it back into the Appulate system by clicking Upload Quote. By doing this, it's going to change our submission status. So we'll change it from submission initiated to now quote prepared. Now, if you bind a quote outside of Appulate and you want Appulate to see that submission as an active policy and help you out next year with renewals, please come in back to the Appulate system and mark any submissions that you found outside of Appulate, mark them as bound within Appulate. So Appulate can, of course, see it as an active policy instead of a submission, and then 30, 60, 90, 120 days from renewal, whatever you set it as in your settings here. The Appulate system will be able to kickstart that renewal by starting that submission in advance, bringing over all the duplicate data from the previous year before, so you don't, again, have to rekey any data. You only have to update the information for that particular year. Next, we're going to talk about the web link style submission. Again, web link ProducerConnect Premium only. This one is going to look a little different. So web link style markets are markets that Appulate does not have a direct relationship with. What this is going to do, it's very similar to e-submission, but this requires that web link browser plugin to be able to bridge over the duplicate information from the Appulate system to the carrier portal. The biggest difference here is it's going to look a little bit more like a video because it's using a browser plugin. So to do this, we'll go ahead and click Submit. It's going to open up the carrier portal, and I'm not doing anything now. I'm just going to let the system run through the motions, logging me in, bridging over the duplicate data, vetting the submission, so seeing if there's a previously started submission in this carrier portal. If there's not, it will automatically start a new quote. Sometimes it will take a second when it goes through the vetting process. So you just let the Appulate system, vet the submission. That's because it's going to give you the option to start or continue rather a previously started submission if you had one. But again, it's just going to bridge over the duplicate data that it has from the Appulate system to the carrier portal. You would click through your screens and obtain your quote as you're used to obtaining it. Now we would click Upload Quote and bring the quote that we obtained outside of Appulate back into the Appulate system, updating the status from submission initiated to quote prepared. Lastly, we're going to talk about email style submission. I do recommend adding your underwriting contact first by clicking Select and hitting Add New. The very first time you do need to add your agent or your underwriter rather manually. I have an underwriter in here, a demo one that I'm going to add. So we'll just add that contact in here. Now we will go ahead and click Submit. ProducerConnect standard premium agencies, again, do not forget to configure your email. It's actually really simple to do so from the email side submission. The very first time you send one out, you'll get this yellow informational at the top. All you have to do is click on the verbiage, configure your mail server. If you use, Gmail or anything like that, you'll use SMTP, so you will have to obtain your server port information. But if you use a Microsoft product like Outlook, you can click MS Exchange, enter your email address and your email address's password, and then click Auto Search. The system will then just find the service URL for you, and then you click on the box that says leave a copy of the message on your mail server. This is super crucial so that when an email is sent out of Appulate, not only can a copy be found in the Appulate system, but will also be locatable in your email server's outbox. Now, once I send this email, all replies will go to my email address directly as an agent. They won't come back through Appulate, as it'll just be sent to you. Now, the Appulate system has automatically loaded the documents that it sees necessary for my submission, so the forms and the supplementals. But on the right-hand side of the screen, this upload file button, you have the ability to add any additional files if you need to. I have a very basic email template just showing up here in the body section, but this is all editable, so feel free to edit as you need to. The submit button is going to be fairly self-explanatory. Submit is submit, but I do have this really neat scheduled submission button that can be helpful for many agents. The scheduled submission button allows you as the agent to tell the Appulate system to send an email out at an exact date and time for you. So I'll explain this kind of with a little bit of an analogy. So let's say the 3 previous markets that we went to all accepted this submission at 90 days in advance. But due to underwriting guidelines for whatever reason, ACE, my email style submission, is not going to consider this risk until 60 days in advance. Well, there's a 30-day deficit there. Why do you want to have to remember to get back into the Appulate system to send an email out? It is really great using the schedule submission feature because the Appulate system will send this email out for me at that exact date and time, of course, aiming to block the market. So you would click the actual schedule submission button yourself. Now, I want this to go out 30 days from now, so I'll just update to 7/9/2020. But I want this to go out at 12:01 a.m., ensuring that I'm blocking the market. So I just hit done, click OK. Now the Appulate system is scheduling this email to go out at that exact date and time that I had listed. You see my status here says scheduled. Once this email is sent out, the status will say submitted. Now, those are the 4 different types of submissions that you can process with an Appulate. I do want to touch on a few other things before we talk about where to find additional training and then open it up for any questions. Let's visit the activity section. Now, this activity section is a full timestamped log of everything that we've done so far with our particular submission. You can see our very last action being that scheduled submission for ACE. It tells me exactly when this email is going to be sent out, and a copy of that email is viewable here. For Appulate style submission, so that very first submission style we worked on, remember that particular market's entire rate quote bind process happens with an Appulate, as do communication. So if you need to communicate with an Appulate style submission underwriter, you click the notes and then you locate the shared button. Go ahead and enter your note. Maybe it's a question, maybe it's a narrative. That note is then time-stamped. So when you actually submit to the Appulate style submission market, anything that you entered in the shared notes section goes directly to that particular underwriter. That underwriter can also send response back. If a response is sent back to you, you're notified via email of that response, and then that response is found in the shared section under notes. There's also a private notes section. Now, private notes are simply for you as the agent. They are not shared with underwriting. It's also a great place for internal communication in regards to the submission that you're working on. Lastly, there is a document section. So say a particular market is requesting a notice of cancellation for an insured. We'll go ahead and click choose file. I'm going to locate that NOC that I'm looking for. Click open. And we'll change the type here to notice of cancellation. You can see I can edit any notes if I wanted to and hit save changes. Now that NOC is uploaded in Appulate. So if this needed to go to a particular market, this document would be sent to that underwriter. Now I'm going to show you one trick that I love about the Appulate system. So, we've entered a bunch of information for this work comp submission for this particular insured. But now we're ready to move on to their business auto. So let me show you how to bridge over all duplicate information from a previous submission from a different line of business to a new line of business. From the drop-down menu up here in the submission tab, there is a little arrow. Go ahead and click that arrow. It'll currently show me the submissions that I'm working on. Now it's just work comp. But then we can go ahead and click Create New. We'll choose our line of business. We'll do Business Auto, double check your effective dates, and click Continue. Now, all of the duplicate information from my workers' comp submission bridges over to this Business Auto. And now I would just have to add information applicable to this particular line of business. With that said, you can also still uplink an Accord form. Again, no right or wrong way to do it. Just wanted to show you that cool cut. Now I'm going to talk about where to find some additional training. After that, we'll go ahead and open it up for any questions. To look at additional training, click that Help tab at the very top of the screen, click on Training, and then you can click Start Appulate eLearning. This is a self-paced e-learning course that will take you through all of the functionality of Appulate, both ProducerConnect Premium and ProducerConnect Standard, including setup from start to finish. You can skip modules if you need to. Please feel free to take this as many times as you'd like. Also, underneath the Help tab, there is a video tutorial section, and this is an absolute wealth of knowledge. It will default to featured videos, which are just quick 1 to 2 minute videos on how to accomplish simple things with an Appulate. Say you're a premium agency and you're going to send your first loss run, but you kind of need a refresher on how to do it. Here is our Loss Runner video. This is a 3-minute video on how to use Loss Runner. So rather than having to watch an entire separate video, you can just come in here and watch the short videos as well. Also, there are agent training webinars that will take you through the entire Appulate submission from start to finish, both ProducerConnect Premium and ProducerConnect Standard. So these are just all previously recorded webinars. Also, underneath Help, there is our Webinars tab. You can see there's a lot of webinars that are viewable here, both on demand. We have one specifically for employers agents. We also have an on-demand ProducerConnect training, just like this one that we went through today, will allow you to watch these trainings from start to finish and still submit questions. There are also webinars coming up. Please feel free to join any that you see here that, of course, aren't private. Ask questions during the course of those webinars. We also have ProducerConnect trainings just like this one every single Tuesday. So feel free to hop on and watch as many trainings as you'd like. Lastly, there is the ability to contact our support team directly with an Appulate under Contact Us. You can update this request type anytime, whether it is a support request, maybe you're getting an error. If you do receive an error in the Appulate system for any reason, please take a screenshot and attach it to this request. There's also the supplemental section if you need a supplemental added, new features, sales inquiries. So if you're a ProducerConnect Standard agency who wants to go to Premium, you can also put that information directly within here. Now that we've gone through everything from start to finish, I do want to open it up for any questions at this time. So please feel free to utilize the questions box of your webinar screen, and I'll go ahead and answer those questions now. We'll go ahead and do a last call for questions. We had kind of a small group today. Oh, it looks like we have one pop up. Hang on just a second. Okay, long question. Go ahead. All right, I have your question. Hang on, I can't really review it. So if you're from a company that directly uses Appulate through another company, and you don't have access to some of the videos, is there another way to access them? If you mean the training videos, yes. It's our YouTube page. So it's just youtube.com/Appulate. And this will take you to our library of training videos. So feel free to look at any of these. It's being updated all the time. There's constantly videos that are being added in terms of training or market-specific training to YouTube. Does that answer your question, Kat? I just want to make sure I was able to cover everything there. You're an AmFam agent. Okay, got you. Technically, American Family provides their own training to American Family agents. So your screen is not going to show any of this Appulate stuff. It's going to say American Family. Technically, Appulate is not allowed due to our contract to train you. I'm sorry, I should have caught that before you even attended the training. The workflow is actually going to be very similar, but American Family wants to control everything that you see in terms of training. So please contact American Family directly in terms of additional training. They host trainings themselves. I will also, or can also reach out to them to see when their next training is and send you a notification via email. Any American Family agents and AmFam want to make sure that they do trainings themselves. Oh, no worries, don't worry. Just go ahead and contact them. They have a lot of training content that is put together. The workflow, so everything that you saw today essentially is very similar, but it's branded differently, of course, in your particular view that you're going to see when you do training with AmFam directly. Any other questions today? I'll go ahead and do a last call for any questions. All right, I just want to thank everybody for their time today. I really appreciate you attending our training. If there is anything we can do for you here at Appulate, please do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you so much and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.